Hi folks, Tom Coy with yet another episode of Ann Arbor Shield. And with me in the studio today is Al Blixt.
Hello.
Board chair, I was told before we got in here anyhow, of Intentional Communities of Washtenaw. So, Al, we've talked a couple times prior to today's show, and maybe you could just fill in the audience a little bit with some personal background as to how you got to be chair of this organization, and go from there.
Okay, well, it's a personal story. 33 years ago, my wife and I had a super preemie son born at 1 pound 10 ounces. He spent 4 months in the neonatal intensive care unit and developed some significant disabilities. He's now 33, given almost no chance to live way back when, but he has physical problems. He's developmentally delayed. He's a wonderful guy, sweet, wonderful guy, but doesn't understand money, total innocent from a law enforcement standpoint. He's the kind of person you do not want to allow it onto the street because people will pick on him. Sure. So we went through the whole special education experience until his 26th birthday, but along about the time he was 22, 23, I was contacted by a group of parents who were similarly situated with adult children with developmental disabilities, and the housing arrangement, the ability to stay connected and have friends in society just wasn't there. So we began conversations in 2004, and we ended up with about 20 or so families that were interested in doing something new that would improve the quality of life of their children and would make some provision for that quality of life to continue even after mom and dad were gone. So Intentional Communities grew out of those discussions, and in 2008 we opened our first community, which consisted of 5 residents, and the keystone of this whole concept is to have a person who is on site, has their own home on site where these folks live, and who provides kind of the social glue. They're kind of the cruise director. So we call that person a community builder. So we opened in 2008 with 5 individuals whose parents had the means to purchase condominiums. And so it's at Summerfield Glen, which is out near, if you know where the Liberty Sports Club is, right? I-94, just as you come over I-94 on Liberty. And so Summerfield Glen is a wonderful condo complex, has hundreds of units, but we ended up with our first 5 residents living there. And so what happens in that living unit, now we have 4 of those groups, each one of which has a community builder. So that group becomes kind of a social cluster, a unit. And every Monday, they will meet at one of the residents' homes, and that person hosts dinner. They plan social activities and outings and various kinds of things that allow for formal, structured social interaction, which might mean going out for an ice cream cone, or it might be going to the movies, or going horseback riding, or doing something. And so our organization of families of parents raised the money to purchase a condo, so now that community builder has his own place to live at Summerfield Glen.
Let me ask you a question here just before I forget, because that audience will know that happens with me regularly. In a group home, typically you have, I don't know what the title is, but someone who oversees that population. How does that differ from what you're describing?
So in a group home setting, with all due respect to everything that the government provides, there is literally food, shelter, safety. That's about it. Persons who don't have a choice of whom they live with, you don't necessarily have caretakers who are going to be interested in developing the knowledge and skills of those individuals. It's basically to keep them safe. And so those are, in terms of the phenomenon of isolation and loneliness, that is really what really gets to these families. So group homes are a form of highly regulated congregate living where you don't get to choose who you live with, and you don't necessarily have any outside social activities. So what we're trying to do, we build on the kind of support staffing that the government will provide. And so a private agency of one kind or another for those individuals who need help, like my son has 24/7 care. For those who need it, they will have what's called community living support staff. And those are people who will come in and make sure that meals get made, make sure that that person gets out and buys groceries and do all the things that need to be done. But the community builder's job is not to work one-on-one with the individual. It's to bring the groups together and to make sure that they have a social life. So our communities operate, primarily right now we have 30 residents, roughly, who belong, and there's half of them live in the complex that I mentioned, Summerfield Glen condo complex. But that's not affordable for everybody, including me. So we also opened communities at an apartment complex that accepts Section 8 subsidized rent and has a sliding scale of income-based rent. So Woodchase Apartments is home to some of our folks, and Summerfield Glen is home to some of our other folks. So what happens is that, like that small cluster is like the basic operating unit of the concept. But once a month, we all get together for an event, and it might be a Halloween party, or it might be we have a winter formal at Barton Hills, where all the young men and young women get dressed up, and the young ladies just love it. The guys are definitely good with it. But we have, a summer beach party. We have, in the spring, we have our annual fundraiser, which is a bowling party at the new Revel and Roll. Used to be Colonial Lanes.
Okay.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
But so we raise money, and as a group, we have now got about 30 families that are directly involved, but we've got over 200 folks who are on our mailing list who have loved ones with developmental disabilities. And so we provide social activities both at the small community level, the larger community level, and we also provide, on a monthly basis, public meetings that are educational, and that's really for the families. So every month we will have, usually, except for the summertime, we will have someone come in. We might have an attorney talk about special needs trusts, or we might have somebody from community mental health come in and talk about benefits. We might have somebody who is a trust officer at a bank, or somebody who's a psychologist or psychiatrist. We have any number of things that people with developmental disabilities and their families need to know about.
Okay, and you said you just had a guest from Treasury?
We just had, yes, there is a brand new program, a 529 program, which I won't try to explain, but the idea here is if you're a person with developmental disabilities, you cannot have in your own name more than $2,000 in assets, or you will lose your SSI, your SSDI. It will affect your Medicaid eligibility. And so the government has created this new program which will allow you to have essentially a sheltered savings account that will allow you to accumulate money to do things like buying a handicap accessible van, or even to purchase a home, but to have more than $2,000 in assets, as long as that fund is used only for disability-related expenses. So we had the director of that new program. It's called Me Able. And so for those of you who are out there interested, you can just go to Me Able, or My Able, I guess. It's MIABLE.org.
Good use of camera here,
yes.
Al. And that came about when? When did that?
That was Tuesday night.
But I mean the
program actually was passed in 2014. It was approved in 2015, but it went live 7 days ago.
Oh, wow.
So this is a brand new program. Most people don't know about it. So we had a full house Tuesday night, and the people who came, obviously word of mouth works because people who were not on our mailing list showed up.
Yeah, you showed me the picture. It was definitely.
So we had a big crowd. So what we try to do is we provide support. We provide for those who think they want to become part of intentional communities. We have an intake process, and we allow people to kind of ease into it. It usually takes about 6 months to get ready to move in, especially if the individual is moving out of mom and dad's home.
Gotcha.
If they've been living somewhere else, it's a difference. But we have residents between the ages of 22 and 52 right now.
Okay.
So we have a pretty wide age range.
For sure.
And what we try to do is create the most supportive and integrative as much as we can into the community.
Okay.
The other thing I would say is that the paid staff that the government pays for, the community living support staff, we work hard with them to help them see their role not as a caretaker or a caregiver even, but as a daily living coach. And we model the idea that we're trying to build the capacity of these individuals. My son, when he lived at our house, he never did laundry. He didn't know how to load the dishwasher. You know why? Because Mom and Dad were so helpful.
Right.
So helpful.
Parents, are we listening to this on any level? No,
yeah, right. Right. So that the idea of having people reach their optimal independence in a safe environment with social connections. And I can tell you as a parent who there were normal, what we would call normal, typically able kids, when he was in elementary school and in junior high school and even in high school, those people were his friends. But as soon as high school was over, they were gone. So if you don't have people that could be your peer group, the world loves a disabled child. It does not love a disabled 33-year-old man nearly as much.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
So from our standpoint, we have integrated within the whole community, but yet with people who have a social circle that they are able to operate in and have friends and have activities and have a full, rich life.
Yeah, I like it. I really applaud. I mean, we've talked about intentional communities in the organization, and we met with you the other night. And one thing that came across very much in talking to you is that the population that we're talking about here, often the parent or the guardian feel overwhelmed and isolated, and those two things working together can really, I can understand, would be very discouraging for whatever reason. And obviously, intentional communities addresses a lot of that. So we're going to put up on the screen here how you get a hold of Al, and that would be to use either the website at intentcom.org, or he said you may call him at 734-657-5772. And again, that's Intentional Communities of Washtenaw. And Al, I appreciate you being here today, and I'm really hoping that someone knows someone or is watching now, and that you'll get a phone call or access the website.
That would be fantastic.
And
Thank you.
All right, that concludes our episode today, folks, and we probably are going to show a repeat in December of a previous episode with regard to retail fraud and shopping safety during the holiday season. And we will see you back here January live with a new opening that Robert's going to help me with. And I think is going to be a very exciting topic of race and the police. So we'll see you then. Have you safe holidays.